So, hello everybody. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm back with another episode with Manveer. Manveer Singh Anand is a serial entrepreneur and a catering success evangelist and hospitality expert and an author. So, thank you very much, Manveer, for taking a time out and joining me. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, been a pleasure, Lakshit, and good to know about the 17-year-old podcaster in you. It's always good to probably meet younger minds and discuss with them what is it that's happening in the space of entrepreneurship. So it's my pleasure indeed. Thank you so much for having
thank you. So before we get into anything and discuss anything, why don't you introduce yourself? Like what do you do? Like give a clear idea, and yeah, then we can move forward with other questions too.
Okay, so basically, I'm an entrepreneur in the F&B space. That's where my bread and butter comes in. I run two companies right now. One is Night Gourmet, which is again, an event hospitality solutions company. We manage hospitality for some of the largest events in the country, starting from IPL, ISL, Pro Kabaddis, IFA Awards, and so on and so forth. And the second entity, which we happened to start post the pandemic, was something called TKG Ventures, which is a coaching, consulting, and incubation initiative to empower the next generation of food entrepreneurs. Very much what we are doing is we are basically creating a lot of opportunities for them to learn about food businesses, because there's a lot of talk about food blogging, about other careers. But one of the most important aspects is how do you start a food business? And no hotel management college teaches you that, no culinary school teaches you that. And that's where we found a niche and we're trying to really scale that up. Besides that, I've been a strategic investor in a couple of cloud kitchen brands, FMCG brands, and like I said, really intrigued by the entire space of F&B, because I think if there's something happening in this country right now, F&B is one of that one entity which is like no doubt evergreen, in its actual sense, but there's so much more which can be done, because it's keeps on evolving every now and then. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do for a living. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you get into the food space? Like what was your story of getting into food space?
So it's apparently I'm an accidental entrepreneur, and most importantly, that too in catering, which has been my bread and butter for the longest time, and that's even a story for that matter. So I was working with a management consulting firm, did my schooling and college from Delhi itself, and then happened to join a management consulting firm as a risk management consultant. And during all those exercises, there comes a fatigue after 2 years, where in which you think you've really done it all, but there's nothing hands-on or nothing, where in which I'm able to add value. So I happen to have a personal experience where in which there was something which happened with me, during that particular time, where in which we started a midnight delivery outlet, at 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. because there was a concept of 24/7s coming into the country, and a lot of outlets were opening up. But it was still the Gundaraj, the way you call it, and I happened to see someone with a gun and so on and so forth. So just to solve that part of the market, we started one of the first cloud kitchen brands way back in 2013, which was 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. kind of a meal called Night Bites, which again we scaled to around 3 outlets, in Delhi, and we were doing close to 250 orders broadly. And after that, happened to find a strategic investor and happened to sell that off, to him at a pretty decent valuation. So after that, I happened to think that by accident I've been able to sell this company. I didn't know anything about F&B. It was just that we were very good with sales and we were the first movers at that particular point in time. So sometimes being first movers really helps you. So once we started doing that, we came into a situation wherein which I thought that it's the right time for me to go out there and learn more about the trade, and that's when I did my culinary management. I'm a trained chef right now. Did it in Delhi and London, and came back to start my current company called Night Gourmet, which is again a catering company. I found during my cloud kitchen days at that particular point in time, I found that there's so much which can be done for bulk meal requirements, and that was a sweet spot which we were able to capture. And with that, I started Night Gourmet. And believe you me, it's been around 7 years I've been doing the same trade. But one thing has led to another, and we got our first break with a large sports league called ISL, wherein which, we really scaled it up. And since then, we manage 6 out of the 8 sports leagues right now. So that's how, the entire journey of how Mammon Consulting to Cloud Kitchen to catering really started. And today, we're in the edtech space, edtech or the incubation space, investment stage. So overall, I think, food was something, which really got me in. And that was not something which was really pre-planned, but I think I'm glad, it's been my bread and butter all throughout. Yeah.
Okay. And so many different things, so many different parts. You do this, you do that, and all of that, all of these different things. So what's one thing which makes you think, and what does it give you to learn about all of these things which you have gone through and experienced and all of that?
As in the future,
in the way of learning, what did you learn from all of these experiences?
The best learning I've taken is that one of the most important things to actually do anything is to get started, and that was one of the best learnings I've taken, that this term called analysis paralysis really leads you nowhere. So it's very important that, no matter what you're doing, you're running a food business, you're part of your school or college, take an initiative. If you wanted to be part of the entrepreneurship cell, or you wanted to be a part of the placement cell, go ahead and be a part of it. If you wanted to run a student startup, go ahead and be a part of it. In fact, I had run a student startup way back in college, college and school both. And because I wanted to experience the corporate, I didn't wanted to actually lose out on that. So I happened to take I still think that why don't I do that? But I still think my time at my Mammon Consulting firm really taught me a lot. So all and everything is, which is very important for, which has been very important with me, is that get started, let the analysis paralysis be at the bygones, and focus on one thing, that when you're young, you work to learn and not to earn, and that's really worked out for me. Because when I was starting out, I remember there was multiple internships. So at a given point in time in college, I was doing 8 to 10 internships, alongside. And in 8 to 10 internships, what really happens is that you meet so many people from different colleges, different societies, and so on and so forth, that the way you think really changes. And by the end of my college, I'd already, whatever free work I used to be doing as part of sales, I'd already paid for my college education through my college earnings itself. So, these are some of the interesting aspects which I think, has really been with me to first get started, and, always look into this perspective, that when you're young, work to learn and not to earn. And this is not by me. This is what Robert Kiyosaki says as part of, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. So do read that book. That's a very transformational book, and will really give you a lot of thought process on how to look at opportunities ideally of sorts. Yeah.
Okay, totally. Thank you. And the way we wanted to even talk about FMCGs and all of that things happening and all of that. How do you think the work for, if you want to be a food entrepreneur, how do you think the space has changed when the time you started and the time now? What differences do you see?
So, we come from a very different, and I don't want to say we come from a very different era, but, what I can tell you is that you want it, you don't want it. COVID has changed the way people have been doing business. And I think at your age, it's a very, very good space that you're witnessing. It's basically, I always say it's a, so we used to earlier say, BC and AD, right? So now it's basically, pre-corona and post-corona. So it's in both cases, it's the similar scenario. Or after corona, you can call it, PC or AC, whatever you might want to call it. What has really happened is, in the FMCG space or in the food tech space, what really is changing is the way the preferences of the customers have changed. Today, you have people, who have a preferred mindset that we want to deal with brands directly. We want to order from them directly, vis-a-vis ordering them through an entire supply chain network. That's where, this entire concept of D2C has come into being, called direct to customer. Earlier, there was something called B2C, which was basically a business going to a distributor, and distributor then giving it to multiple wholesalers, and wholesalers were in turn giving it to retailers. So that entire value chain is now broken. You can be a small business but at the same time reach the customer directly only via digital marketing. So first is that the entire business has been democratized by this concept called D2C. You don't have to be a large player now. You can be a small player working out of a small warehouse, and the only thing which is a connector between you and a 100-year-old brand is an online website. That's it. So this thing never used to exist earlier, because earlier you had to show the quality of a factory, the kind of distributors you had. Today nobody talks about that. It's all about branding and data. Two things. Second aspect is about the way I've seen the growing influence of social media. Today, because of social media, what has really happened is that you are talking about what. So hummus during that time was also there, but today is no novelty. Hummus is part of our daily like daily meals essentially of sorts. You talk about any item per se. I'm talking to people about Peruvian cuisine, sushis. We're talking about crystal dim sums, gyozas. All that is possible through what? Social media, because everything today is available on the click of a button. So with the rise of content and social media, people are and earlier it was what people used to say, that people who used to travel, they were very well traveled and they could have tried the cuisine. But today everyone's on a Instagram, right? And they just have to check the food tab, and they find food from every possible corner of the world. So that's where the awareness is so much. Today you can sell a concept of vegan. You can't you typically couldn't sell that 10 years back, because it's with the entire space of Netflix, a lot of social media, which has got that customer behavior changing. And third and most important, like I said, with D2C and the aspect I told you, the second aspect, third and most important is that the entire space right now is being run on a lot of automated platforms. So for example, today you don't have to build an entire backend. You can typically leverage upon the power of someone else's backend and just play around with the brand and grow your business. It's all about either you can sell or you can produce. You can't do both. And if you try to do both, it's better margins, but it's a difficult asset class. So all these aspects is what gives you a massive edge over a lot of people who were in the I would say pre-corona PC phase, when which they were still trying to work it out the way that they had to build a massive factory and they had to then figure out the sales. Today you pick up a product, you figure out how do you want to, who's your target customer, build a marketing plan around that, start pitching to them, and you can just probably have a manufactured by marketed by label, and that's pretty much about it. The intellectual property is in your brand and not into the manufacturer. And this is something which is, and that's why, like I said, the third part is that everything today is available to you at the click of a button. But you want to do marketing mails, you want to do SMS campaigns, you want to do WhatsApp campaigns, you want to do Facebook ads. Earlier, was a time in which you had to hire everyone for everything. You had to hire a person for pamphleting, you had to hire a person for your social media ads, not social media ads, but Google ads and so on and so forth. But there's nothing of that sort. You can pick up your phone, just YouTube, just check on YouTube, how do you do an Instagram ad, and you're good to go. So you're as good as a large brand, no? So that's how it works. Cool?
Yes, totally agreed. And the way also for us, even the small company which I run, is a similar thing. We don't have to work a lot. It's just a post on Instagram, and the product is the order you get by the customers. So I think it's become very easy, and I totally agree with you on that point. So what would be your advice to anybody who wishes to pursue, like say become a chef, or wishes to start a food company? What would be your advice to them?
So the first and foremost aspect I would like to say, and this is something a lot of food entrepreneurs would typically say, that this is a passion business, not a money-making business on the face of it. A lot of people are lured into this trade thinking that it's a 50%, 70% kind of a markup business, in which you make crazy margins. So someone thinks if you're selling something for $100, your food cost will be $30. Yes, the food cost will be $30, but it's not the entire overhead cost also, right? So the first thing to understand is that if you're passionate about food, or if not, even if you're not passionate, but you need to be very realistic with your expectations. You get into a steel business not thinking that a steel business is what a steel your metal is something you're passionate about. But sometimes what's really important is that I've seen a lot of people who think that they are foodies and they'll find the careers in food. It never happens. I'm not a foodie myself. I am a chef myself. I put in a lot of effort, but I've done so much of tasting that after a point in time, I like ghar ka khana today. After doing all of what I've done, because it's it really gets on to you, and I mean, there's only as much tasting you can do. But I definitely think it's really glamorized in a sense where people think that you're gonna be probably sitting with Sanjeev Kapoor one day or a Vikas Khanna, and you'll be talking to him, you'll be doing beautiful plating. Instead, people starting in the chef trade typically have to cut onions for 24 hours, 30 hours, 100 hours, in a week, typically of sorts. So these are some hard facts you need to know about. Second, not being all negative, it's a very lucrative business. Lucrative business if you do it for the right reasons. Right reason means finding a pain point and solving it. What do I mean by that? For example, I'm just giving you a perspective. I'm in the catering business or I'm in the cloud kitchen business. I refrain from competing with existing players. I try to find a niche between the market. What is a small niche I can target? For example, when the world does, when we talk about catering for that matter, people only think about wedding caterers. And we as a entity, even before pandemic, we were not doing weddings at all. We were purely picking up mandates which they never found value in. We were picking up like an IPL, they never knew, I mean, an IPL was typically done by 5-star hotels, right? So we figured out what is the solution we can offer to the client, what is the vertical and horizontal integration we can do, and how we can find a solution to it. So that's the second part. It's a lucrative business, but find your niche. Very, very, very important. Third, and one of the most important things I think we need to do as budding food entrepreneurs or in the chef business or any budding career professional who wants to build a career in F&B or FMCG of sorts. That is about actually understanding this one fact, which is that your business is evolving every 3 to 5 years, come what may. And this is something I explain during my sessions, in which I tell them the food business evolution cycle. That in 1970s you had restaurants. Fine in restaurants, you had people with crockery, cutlery, and all of that. You come to 1980s, 1980s late. You had McDonald's evolution all throughout. There were disposables, being served. Very, very shabby. Not shabby, but very quick service kind of restaurants. Which were there and which you just had to eat and move out. Then came in your takeaways. And then even cloud kitchens. Today, cloud kitchen is evolving. Cloud kitchen is becoming like IoT enabled. There are hardly going to be chefs in the future, at least in this kind of automated trades, idea of sorts. So the third and the most important thing is to always focus on keep learning as to what are the new trends. Because if you don't learn on these new trends, you will absolutely miss out the train, and that's not something I want. Last and the final point I have, which is something I always highlight during my sessions. There are 3 skills any person who wants to stay relevant in the post-pandemic world needs to have. First is technical skills. A lot of people think that only by selling you can typically build a business. No, if you're in the food business, you need to know the technicalities of shelf life, of how food is prepared. Not make it yourself, but the basics. The technical skills are very important. If you're in the FMCG business, you should know that what is the recipe I need to make, or what is the ideal labeling I should be doing so that my product has an edge over other competition, right? All these aspects, technical skill is first part, and again the knowledge about the trade. That's also part of the technical skills. Second is about entrepreneurial skills. Now, what is entrepreneurial skills? It is called the ability to monetize on your knowledge. Whatever you learn. You can know everything, right, Lakshay? Yeah. You can know everything. You can know about everything under the sun. But if you don't apply it to make money out of it, I can't help you, yeah. Or nobody can help you. Entrepreneurship is the second part of it. That whatever you know, start there. Like I said, analysis paralysis is something you need to avoid. So start soon. That is very important quintessential element. And the moment you start doing that, you quickly start monetizing that, because that will give you learning. And third and the last one is soft skills. People who don't focus, I think the kind of sessions you are doing in that process, you personally also evolving. And that's very important for everyone, that the more you converse with people who are either your age or slightly senior, or someone who's very experienced that way. You know, the conversations, the communication, what you build upon is that, because no matter what business you are in, even if you're a tech entrepreneur, you still need to meet people and communicate with them. And it's all about relationship building. Every business is relationship building skill. So if you can do that, you're in a good place. And that's my fourth point. So I'm pretty much done on this. Yeah.
Okay. So just one last question. If you would like to add some more points or speak about anything, or have a message to anybody who wishes to become an entrepreneur, any kind of thing, please go ahead.
I mean, like I said, I'll stick to my first aspect, what I have said, that first work to learn and not to earn initially. Because I mean, the technical skills is a very important fundamental aspect. The money you would be probably foregoing in the first 2-3 years will be all compensated in 1 year of learning.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, right? So that's very important. And the second and most important aspect is to leverage upon the 3 skills I've told you. If you ideally can build upon these 3 skills, I don't need to tell you what you need to be doing next, because you yourself will be in a position where in which you'll be finding newer opportunities for you every now and then. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. So thank you very much, Manveer, for taking your time out and joining me in. It is a pleasure to learn from you and know about how, I think as a food entrepreneur myself, I think a lot of things did change, and you gave a perspective to think about. So thank you very much for taking your time out and joining me. Thank you very much.
Yes. Great. Cheers. Thank you.